for Jump. What's up, everyone? It's me, Vindy. I'm excited. Y'all are excited. We're talking about Jump. I can't wait. I'm actually so excited. I've been waiting for this for like a week and a half, and we're going to do one, and then Jump's on break because Shueisha hates me, so then we're going to have to go to another week. It sucks. I hate it, but it's okay because we can talk about it this week. Before I get into the chapters really quickly, I want to get into some housekeeping. Since this series is going to be like the core of my channel, I kind of want to make sure that we go over stuff that I can talk about the channel here, just so that I don't have to make other videos about it and stuff like that. So I really wanted to say like thank you to everyone who watched or subbed after I put up the week 0 one. The response was crazy, right? Like I gained almost, I think, like 50 subscribers. I'm 3 away from 200, so hopefully I'll hit 200 subs once this one goes up. It got like 273 views. It's currently sitting at 37 likes and 1 dislike with like 20 comments. Like that's crazy. I can't actually believe the amount of support I got, right? I only heard pretty positive things. You know, there are some people who had some complaints, and I have some pretty big complaints with it. So, you know, it wasn't a perfect video, but it was all really positive, you know, feedback. And I really enjoyed that. I really liked seeing all the positive feedback. It made me feel better, and it made me more excited to keep trying to make these. So I hope you all continue to enjoy. I also have a new icon by Mogi64, and that intro y'all saw was done by Drock34000. You should check both of them out. Here's their Twitters. And Drock also has a YouTube channel where he has a really, really well-edited Komi video, and he's planning to get out more videos in the future. So be sure to sub to Drock. Now that's out of the way, I want to talk about some other kind of stuff for the series that I had some ideas for. First of all, I think once we start talking about the series, I do want to feature some comments before we kind of get into the things of the last week. We could talk about it. So if you have anything you think I said that was super wrong, or you want to add to it, or you have information that I maybe didn't get, please put it in the comments, and then I can kind of do like addendums. Also, I think what I'm going to be doing is there's going to be a poll in the description and in the pinned comment. And what that poll is going to be is it's going to be all the series, and I want y'all to vote what your favorite one was, and I'll do like my top 3 every week. So we'll kind of have like this running poll of, you know, what our rankings are for Jump every week, and I think that'll be kind of fun. I'm curious to see what y'all think every week. I also have some other like weekly like awards I'm kind of gonna give out. I'm gonna give out like best spread probably. That's gonna be after we talk about the chapter, so I won't talk about those now. So if you're curious, go, you know, we'll watch it all because I want the watch time, but also make sure to watch till the end when we talk about what my favorite spread was, what my favorite panel was, stuff like that. Without further ado, let's stop just bullshitting around. Let's actually get into the series. So like we talked about, I'm gonna go in chronological order. So I'm gonna start with dreaming, don't give it up, Luffy dreaming, don't give it up, Zoro dreaming, don't give it up, Nami. One Piece was really good this week. It was actually great. But I want to start off with the color page since that was pretty cool. I loved seeing Jinbei there. Like, I know that he's part of the crew, and I think he's been in previous color pages with them all, but it's one of those things where he hasn't, outside of, you know, the very end of Whole Cake, which he even left, we haven't seen Jinbei with the full crew. So, because even in Whole Cake, he wasn't with everyone. So it's cool seeing a spread where we get all of them and Jinbei there. Like, that's great. I love that. I just can't wait for that moment where we see Jinbei at the end. It'll probably be the end of Wano when everyone's together again and we get like the big happy, you know, celebration and Jinbei joining the crew. But I can't wait for that moment because it's going to be so good. Then when we get into the content of the chapter, it's a continuation, you know, of the Odin flashback. But I feel like this chapter wasn't as much about Odin outside of a couple pages. It was much more about Roger and Roger's crew. So it's great seeing Roger more because I love that he's basically Luffy with a mustache. Like, I know, you know, he's Ace's father and everything, but, like, we kind of know that already with the fact that Luffy answered to Raleigh that being the Pirate King is about being the most free person, and we kind of see more continuation of that here where, you know, we see Roger going around and he's laughing, and it all felt like the way he kind of traversed everything felt very Luffy-esque. I really, really liked it. And it was so cool seeing him tread this kind of the same ground that the Straw Hats did, you know? We saw them sing Bing Sake, we saw them, and, you know, previously we saw them go to Skypiea and, you know, ring the bell. We saw them, you know, he met up with Tom, and we got to see a little interaction between him and Frankie. We saw them go to Fishman Island, and we kind of got more about the prophecies and what's going on there. And what I kind of liked about it is we get more confirmation than I think we already had. The prophecies come true, which only brings more for what's going to happen with Luffy and the destruction of Fishman Island. Like, how is that going to happen? Because we know Luffy's not someone who wants to do that. So how is he going to get put into a position where that happens? One thing I loved is kind of these parallels you get between Roger's crew and Luffy's crew, where a lot of what we see of Roger's crew is them just being this big dumb family and all having fun. We see them like bathe together, we see them singing songs and just having fun, and that it parallels with the Straw Hats where they're just a big family. They all have fun together, and I loved watching that because it's so cool. Like, I like seeing Roger's crew and the similarities between them and Luffy's crew, because obviously we have Roger, who was the previous king of the pirates, and then Luffy, who's going to be the person who becomes king of the pirates at the end of the series. And I like seeing the similarities between the two. It's really cool. There's this really cool moment in the chapter where Roger goes to Zoe and he's talking to Pedro. Also, I want to mention the fucking Genghis Bond is maybe the funniest thing that Oda's ever done. The line Roger gives to Pedro is so great. It's like, it hits in the way where like we see a young Pedro and we know that what happens to him, and you almost kind of see like the early parts of Pedro becoming the person who will make the sacrifice he did in Whole Cake. It was really good. It was one of the moments in the chapter where like sometimes One Piece will just have these like small moments where like, and that moment was definitely one of them. I also think another really interesting thing in the chapter, before we talk about the big moment at the end, was it's interesting to me that Shanks didn't go to Raftel, or I guess Laugh-Tale now. I'm gonna keep calling it Raftel because that's what I've known it as. But it's interesting that Shanks didn't go, because I've heard people say, I have a friend who had said before this chapter came out, we were talking the other day about One Piece, and he called Shanks, he's like, oh, well, Shanks is probably the secret pirate king. He's like, Shanks knows where Raftel is because he's been before, but he hasn't been before. He didn't read the poneglyphs. Sure, they had a map. We don't know if he saw it, but he stayed behind with Buggy and instead decided to not go. So that's interesting, because now it means that Shanks wasn't part of that crew that went. So he's not someone who could just go to Raftel now because he never went. And that kind of, I think, changes things up for some people. It doesn't really for me, because I never expected that Shanks was going to Raftel and was like a pirate king in secret. But I think for people who do think that, that probably shook him up a little bit. I just think it's interesting that even like Shanks and Buggy didn't go. Okay, so now let's talk about the very, very end of the chapter when they get to Raftel. There's some interesting things I think there, besides just, the last page. Like, it's cool that what's there and what is there either as the One Piece or along with the One Piece is all these big answers that we haven't gotten, right? What the 100-Year War is, who the D are, all these things kind of get answered in Raftel. So now it's even more exciting to go there, because now we're like, oh, when we get there, when Luffy gets there, we'll find all of this out. And I think it's interesting because if you find them all out, they could be connected, right? It could be a series of different things that you learn at different times, but it could also be it's one thing. And then obviously Roger laughed. And I love the spread of just Roger laughing along with everyone else in his crew that's there. It's so great. And I'm super interested to see now what the One Piece is even more, because we all knew it was real because Oda said it's like a thing, but now we even have the manga is like, the One Piece is real. The One Piece exists. It's a thing. Roger's found it. It's there. We see Roger's reaction to finding it. That's probably more like, well, it's not more interesting than finding out what the One Piece is, but that's like almost as interesting, right? Because when you have these things and you see his reaction, if it was just like a big pile of money, right? He wouldn't fucking laugh. It was just like a big gold bell or some shit. He probably wouldn't laugh. So that means that what it is like this interesting thing that probably has to do with these questions that they got answered, as well as just the world itself. And I'm really curious, because it could be really interesting. And I think this is also just kind of like telling us, like, this is going to be Luffy's reaction when he sees the One Piece. Luffy's going to laugh. When I see that page, the panel of Roger laughing, right? Say it's here, right? I can see Luffy's laugh right there next to it, right? Like, they look really similar, even though, obviously Dragon is Luffy's father. I think Roger and Luffy are really, really similar, and I can see them having, like, the same kind of laugh and reacting the exact same way to the One Piece. So that's cool, because like now I feel like we not only have seen Roger's reaction to the One Piece, but we've also seen what Luffy's is going to be when he gets there. So like, that's really cool. It's definitely a big moment. I think that it's cool that we start off 2020 with this, the new decade of One Piece, which, if what Oda's saying is true, is going to be the last decade of One Piece. It's cool that we start that off with such a big moment in One Piece, and I'm excited to see kind of what happens next, because there was also the cool moment, or the good moment where, Oden wanted to stay with his wife and children, and she said, if you leave, I'll divorce you. Like, you're someone who follows things through. Even if you want to stay for me, I know that the person I married is someone who's going to follow this through all the way. And that Oden almost didn't, like, he wanted to because he wanted the adventure, but he also wanted to be with his wife and his kids. And I want to see what happens when he goes back. How does he feel about the fact that he did all this? Does he regret these decisions? And will that play in later? That's all I really have to say. I'm sure people can talk way more, and I could probably talk more about it, but I kind of want to move through these. I don't want to spend way too long on one thing, and it's One Piece. There's a million people talking about it. I'll try to talk more when I feel like I have more, but this chapter was really good. I really, really liked it. I'm curious to see what happens next. Like, this Odin flashback has just been, instead of it being, sometimes where I feel like sometimes there are some One Piece chapters that maybe you're kind of slogs to get through. I feel like it's been the exact opposite with this Odin flashback, where every single thing has been like, oh my god, I love this chapter. I can't wait to see the next one. It's great. I really like it. Okay, so now it's Haikyuu time. I love Haikyuu. I love Haikyuu. It's so good. The intro part to this arc is so great. We get to see, all these characters that we've seen, 5 years ago. Now we see where they're at now. We see what they're doing with their lives. And we get to see, in the case of Tanaka and Shimizu, they ended up together. And it's wild, because that was like a whole kind of joke thing, was that him and Nishinoya were always chasing after her. And we still haven't seen Nishinoya. They're even like, where is he? And I'm sure he's going to fucking show up somewhere. But it's cool because we're getting these, I also have a theory about Nishinoya. I'll get to it in a second because it could be wild. It could be wild. But so, there's a whole like fun thing going on where we get to see all these characters. And I loved seeing the coach and the teacher, like it was cool seeing him because when you count the 1 year that Haikyuu had, and then it's been 5 years since, they've been doing this together because they're still coaching for 6 years now. And it feels like when we see them, even though it's a small interaction, you kind of get the idea that they're closer than they were previously, where like they weren't like standoffish, but you could tell that like they didn't know each other super well. And like even just Coach Ukai's one line gives you the impression that they're good friends because they've been coaching together for 6 years. And, obviously when you work with someone for that long, you develop more than just a working relationship, right? Like you can't work that closely with someone without being, friends. I mean, you can, but it's a shonen manga. That's not going to happen. Another really cool thing was Hinata's a wing spiker. I don't know if it was said before. I don't think it was. It might have been, but it's been so much. It's been hard to say, and I should talk about it anyways. But Hinata's a wing spiker, which is super cool because the entire point of like him on Karasuno was kind of him learning. Like in the last match, I think it was the Hoshizumi match. It might have been against Nekoma, but I think it was against Hoshizumi, whatever. There was like a line where he's like, being the decoy is fun. I'm glad I can be the decoy, be this middle blocker, and do what I can here. But now he's a wing spiker. He's not the middle blocker, which is great because like now Hinata's grown up as a player enough where he's able to just be a wing spiker and he's able to be an ace. And what I love about that is now it's not him going up against Ushijima and Hoshizumi as a middle blocker against the spiker. It's as a wing spiker against a wing spiker, right? They have similar roles, and that's so cool. I love seeing them as these, I love seeing that now he can go toe-to-toe with these guys in the same position, not as kind of this weird offshoot position where he's kind of a middle blocker, but he's not also like your traditional middle blocker. I like that. I think it's really, really cool. Holy shit. Tachiyama's ace on Hinata's team. Like, this team is so stacked, and it's so cool because we never got to see Itachiyama like play really, and now we get to see what their ace can do. And so it makes even more sense because, there are a lot of people like, why don't we get to see Tachiyama? Why did we never see what they did? And now it's because we get to see it in this game. Now we get to see what Itachiyama's ace is all about, which is cool. And I'm super excited. And Hinata's team is so stacked, right? We look at it. He has Hinata. It has one of the Miyu twins. It's got Bokudo. It's got Itachiyama's ace. Like, it's gross, And I'm interested to see how is Hinata going to kind of find a way to break out, especially because now he's not getting traded out for a libero. He gets to stay in the whole game. He doesn't go out and come back. So how is he going to kind of carve out a place for himself? Because I'm sure they'll still use him as a decoy. He's too good at it to not be used as one. So how is he going to carve out this place in the team for him to be noticed when he's on a team with all these stars? I'm super interested. I really quickly want to get to my Nishinoya theory because I think this goes along with that. Because they said that Nishinoya should be there and didn't, he'll probably show up later something with an entourage of ladies because he's a swag chad, He's got big dick energy. But I also think that there's a potential that maybe he's playing. I don't think this is going to happen. But we haven't seen either team's libero. What if he's one of them? And they just don't know. That would be so cool. And I would lose my shit. Because when you look at Karasuno, right, you have kind of the best players on it were Hinata, Kageyama, Tsukishima, and Nishinoya were kind of like the people that were special and were kind of like stars and had this potential to keep growing. And, we see Tsukishima's in Division 2 and he's still playing like volleyball professionally. You have Hinata and Kageyama, obviously your Division 1 professional players. Where's Nishinoya? I find it doubtful he would just have given up on volleyball, so it's possible he's still playing. This chapter also had some really, really fun interactions between people. Like, I love just, Bokudo's such a dumbass. I love him. Like, when he's like, are we doing arm wrestling? It's like, shut the fuck up, Bokudo. You're so stupid. I love him. Also, it's so fun seeing, the Karasuno team outside of, the people playing, sitting together in the stands, because you get their reactions to everything. So even though they're not on the field, it's still these players that we spent, 300 plus chapters, 350 plus chapters growing to love. Now we get to see them reacting to a game where people they know are in. So like the way they were all laughing when Bokudo did his flips out onto the field because he's a big dumbass, or their reactions to Ushijima where they were I think it was Daichi was like, oh my god, he's still fucking scary. I love that shit. That's so good. And so I'm super excited to watch the rest of this game and see all of their reactions to everything. I can't wait. Also, another really, really tiny thing is there's the scene where it has the kids and they're laughing because Kageyama's being super serious about it, and he's holding this kid's hand, and then it cuts and you see Hinata and Bokudo is making and the kid's also going and then Hinata's doing his Kageyama impression where he's got a Kageyama face and the kid's laughing. I love seeing them just being big goofballs with kids. It's great. And then obviously the spread at the end of the chapter is fucking insane. It's so good. I love everything about it. It's just the two of them standing there, and it's showing even more of what we're getting here with Haikyuu, which is we have the series starts with Hinata and Kageyama with Hinata telling Kageyama, I'm gonna beat you someday, and now they're going up against each other with teams made up of people who, in the case of Bokudo is a friend, and then everyone else are kind of rivals. What I love about the team Hinata's going up against, right? I don't remember their name right now. Is that you look at it, right? And it's Ushijima, someone who when he lost to Hinata said, I will beat you again someday. I'll be waiting, to both of them, even though really he was really saying it to Hinata. And then you have Kageyama, who they've had this long-standing rivalry about how they're going to beat each other. And you have Hoshizumi, who even said, I want to play you again. So you get this team full of people who have been waiting to play against Hinata again, and Hinata's finally at that level where he can play against them. And he can beat them without having to just use the tricks of, he can't just rely on Kageyama and have Kageyama kind of carry him through. He has to beat them by himself, right? He's still the shortest person. He's still shorter than Hoshizumi, and now he has to win by his own merits. He can't just beat them by being okay, Kageyama, hit me up with a fast set, bam. You know what I mean? He's got to kind of use them, and it's really cool, and I can't wait to see the new tricks he's going to have up his sleeve and how he's going to be able to beat these other, people. Also, another quick thing about the spread is you can tell from their, their shit-eating grins, sure, they're rivals and they're excited to beat each other, but they're still friends, you can tell they're still, at the end of the day, friends. MHA time. Great MHA chapter. Oh my god, it was so good. I was so happy reading this magazine because the first 3 chapters we got were fucking fire. There was so much good smaller stuff in this MHA chapter, right? Because we didn't really see until kind of the end a bunch of super crazy stuff. It was just kind of them working together. But there was one of my favorite spreads, I think, maybe in the manga so far. It's so good. So let me just kind of get into it a little bit. So we see at the beginning Aoyama and Hagakure working together, and what's really interesting about it is I've seen this theory passed around a little bit, and I'm starting to believe it a little bit more too, where I think the direction MHA is going is the way Deku's going to surpass All Might and become the #1 hero is through hero teams, right? So it's going to be him and Bakugo are a team, right? And they work together, and that's kind of going to be how the new hero society is going to be run, because that's the, nobody can really be better than All Might, even though Deku has, technically is stronger. He doesn't have kind of everything All Might does, but he's growing, and I think that there's a potential there for kind of a teamwork thing to become the new norm for Hero Society, right? You get shit you go from stuff just, Spider-Man or Iron Man or whatever to the Avengers and Fantastic Four, X-Men, Justice League, shit like that, where it's these teams of heroes working together. I think that's a really possible outcome for kind of the way the series plays out towards the end. And now we get to see some interesting uses of people's powers, right? Where Aoyama kind of shoots his light into Hagakure and it reflects because, obviously being invisible means you're reflecting light, right? It's not that oh, you can see through me. It's, the way light bounces off you and stuff. So it's cool seeing that. Mina is great. I love her. And I love the interaction between Mina and Kirishima, right? It was really cute because, we see that Kirishima kind of became a hero and created, his Red Riot Unbreakable because of what happened in middle school with Mina, which the anime kind of just did, right? And now we get to see Mina is creating powers and doing stuff because of Kirishima. And I love like the way these two are kind of like pushing each other forwards by being better, because they have this long-standing relationship that goes back to middle school, and now as they're high schoolers working towards heroes, they kind of push each other forwards in really good ways. I really like it. This chapter had quite a few super cute moments, because there was also the one that I'm going to talk about in a second, because I kind of want to move through this chapter in chronological order. I just think this chapter works better like that. There was a really cute moment between Deku and Uraraka that was great, and I loved him. And it even kind of had a funny joke with Mineta, because Mineta, guess what, can be funny sometimes. I'm really quickly going to talk about what I think one of the best things in MHA is. And it's just, you know, I might have talked about this in week 0, I don't think I did, but I really think that like what makes MHA super special, and there's a lot of manga that do this, right? I think Kingdom does this really well as well, but watching Deku's growth, right? Because the series is about Deku growing from someone who doesn't have a quirk and is super weak and can't do anything into the number one hero, right? And we know that's where he's going to be, because that's how it starts, is them telling us that. And this chapter, I think, did a really good job of showing us how far he's come, right? So there was the spread in this chapter that was so good. First of all, the art was just really good. I really like the composition. I love when you have like someone's body kind of goes over panel lines to emphasize them. I always like when that happens. I think it's really cool. So Deku did that. And there's like this line All Might gives, right? About how Deku used to always turn and look to All Might, and now he doesn't do it anymore. And then All Might even says like, and you don't need to, right? Deku's grown past the point where he constantly has to be looking at All Might and worrying about what All Might thinks about everything he does, because not only does he not feel like he needs, well, I guess it goes reverse, right? First it goes, you know, you don't need to, like you don't need it, but you're still doing it. And then you get to the point where you don't even feel like you need to, right? So Deku doesn't constantly, not only does he not constantly need All Might's guidance on every little thing, he doesn't feel like he needs it, right? He can just do something and be like, yeah, this is how I do it, right? And, you know, I don't know if he has complete mastery, but he's really good at using the black tentacle things. Like, he boomed them out, you know? It was cool. There was even, like, some funny jokes about how, oh, it's kind of like Sarah's tape, you know, when they're making jokes about it. But, like, it's cool seeing him be able to use his power. And he's fucking cool. Like, it was a great spread. And I liked watching Deku grow stronger to the point where, you know, at the beginning, he had all this power, but he wasn't, you know, he couldn't use it without hurting himself. And now look at him. Like, he's someone that the entire class is looking at and kind of like, oh my god, he kind of cool, you know? Like, it's good. And so then there was, you know, he lands, and there's, I can't remember the exact order, but, you know, it's even to go back to this idea of, you know, heroes learning from each other as they grow up in school. We get, you know, Uraraka says that she has these new kind of bands she's been using and trying out her power with because she saw what Deku was doing. And I really like that. I think that's really cool. It's kind of a similar thing we got with Mina and Kirishima, but with these two now. And they even have the, you know, they have this really cute fist bump about it. And then there's this, like, really funny 2-panel joke where, like, Mina sees it, and then he's like, oh my god, fuck. Because, you know, he sees how cute they are. He's like, god damn it, you know. They're, like, 2 steps away from having sex in front of everyone. And he doesn't, you know, it's funny watching, like, this fucking tiny little ball boy get all upset. Good joke. Funny joke, Horikoshi. I respected it. So then there's the stuff with Eri, which is kind of scary, kind of spooky. Like, poor Eri, dude. She just cannot get a break. We got, you know, the school festival where she finally smiled and was learning to be happy, and now shit's going on with her horn, you know. I'm sure because we were talking about Nomu's right before, it's going to have something to do with that. It's definitely going to come into this arc. It's going to come into play this arc. I don't know exactly what was going on. It was kind of hard to tell. Maybe other people know better than me. It looked like it was maybe growing or glowing or some shit, something like that. But, you know, something's going on, and it's either scaring her or it hurts her because she's crying. It really sucks. It's sad to see. And I'm, you know, like, Eri's just a character where it feels like she's just going to constantly get beat down. But that's kind of the hero's job, though, right? Is to, even though she's getting beat down constantly, it's up to heroes to keep her smiling and to keep her safe, right? And that's what we're gonna see, I'm sure. And then the chapter kind of ends with this, like, fun kind of 3-way thing that I love anytime it happens, where now it's not just Deku who goes to talk to All Might, but Bakugo comes as well, because Bakugo knows the secret behind Deku's quirk. And since he gets all mad when they talk alone, you know, they invite him in, and so it's kind of the 3 of them talking. And, you know, we see All Might praise Deku, he praises Bakugo. Bakugo's the best character in the manga. He gets all, you know, tsundere and I love him. But then we get to Deku's gonna learn another quirk. So now that he's pretty much mastered the black whips, he can move to another quirk. And I really like seeing that, because, you know, that's how it should go, is we have to watch Deku progress, get stronger, and then he can take on more quirks. And I'm sure there are people that are going to be complaining and like, oh my god, he got his last quirk so soon and now he's already getting another one. This is dumb. Deku's dumb. First of all, I just want to say, I know more than enough people have said this, and more than enough people have been right when they say this. The idea of him having other quirks completely fits in with what One For All does. It completely fits in with the quirk. It makes sense. It's not stupid. We've gotten things leading up to this before it happened. It makes sense. Also, I think that if people are going to go out and say, oh, well, Deku's getting new ones too soon. There was like a pretty long time skip of training, right? And we see all these characters being way better with their powers, like we see Todoroki being stronger. We see Bakugo being stronger. They don't have to show us every little piece of training, right? They showed us snippets of their training with Endeavor, but now they're showing us that training's over and we're going to get into an arc. And I think it's kind of unreasonable to assume that like we're going to move kind of forward with the arc and Deku's just going to keep having the one power when we know there's more. And it'd be weird if he kind of, now that he's learned how to use a quirk, because that was like kind of the thing originally, was that Deku didn't even understand how to use a quirk because he had never had one before. But now that he knows how to use a quirk, I feel like it's a little unreasonable to assume that he can't just pick it up, get to a decent level with it, and then get another one. Because like with One For All strength, he can't just learn how to use it all because obviously it affects his body. So he has to grow his body to be able to use more of it. But it's not the case with the Black Whips, right? That's not something where, okay, you use it and it hurts you, so you have to learn to temper it and you have to grow your body to be able to support it. No, it's just a quirk like any other, So he should just be able to learn how it works, master it, and move on to another one. There might be more quirks like that where they affect his body and he has to grow his body around it. But I think a major difference between One For All strength and these Black Whips is that the strength, the only reason Deku can't just use 100%, because he knows how to use 100%, right? But it's that it affects his body. So the hard part of that was learning how to temper the quirk and how to use how much can he use and how can he grow his body to be able to use more. That's not the case with the whip. So I think saying that, if someone were to make the complaint, I don't know if people are making it, but I assume it is because people don't know what they're talking about when it comes to MHA. I feel like if someone were to make the complaint like, oh, he's getting a new one too quickly, these aren't the kinds of quirks that are going to do harm to his body in the same way that just One For All strength is going to. So I wanted to say that out there just to kind of, I know I'm not going to do anything, but I wanted to quell some of the if anyone watching has that idea, I don't think it's really a fair criticism when you hold it up to other stuff. So I think that's really all I have to say for MHA this week. I don't really have too much more. It was a good chapter. I'm excited to see what the next quirk he gets is, what's going on with Eri. I think the manga's moving in a pretty good direction, and I think it's been moving good, especially since the 1A versus 1B arc ended. I think it's been moving in a pretty solid direction. I can't even think of a funny joke or something to do for Black Clover. The series is enough of a fucking joke as it is already. I don't have much to say about Black Clover. I feel like this is something people might get a little upset with me for, is when I really like a series, I can talk for a long time about it. And there are going to be times where, maybe with Black Clover, I have more to say. This chapter, I don't really have too much to say. There's some stuff I thought was interesting. There's some stuff I do want to talk about, but it's not long, and it's not going to take me long to talk about Black Clover. So, we kind of see in this chapter more of the people using the demon powers to strengthen their magic, which I think is kind of interesting considering Asta only has demon powers, and everything he uses has to be through those. So I'm curious to see kind of what line the manga takes on. I mean, I kind of know, but it's interesting because these guys are doing it to strengthen their powers, and Asta's doing it so that he has powers, but obviously these guys are using it for evil and kind of letting it control them, and Asta controls it, right? So there's that going on. We kind of see that the Xeno guy can use 80%, which is a huge amount. And then we see him attack the guy who has the World Tree magic, and it's cool. And then we see how strong this guy is with his bone magic. And he has this line where he says, I'll take, and I don't understand, maybe it's been explained before, but I don't know, is he taking the magic through the demon powers, or is it through his magic? Because if it's through the demon powers, that's kind of interesting, since Asta can also use them. Like, can he take people's magic, or is it just the demons inside people from the Spade Kingdom? Like, how does that work? How can Daredevil, how are they taking other people's power, like magic, and how is that kind of going to play out in the arc? And then, shows up, and I have some problems with some stuff. I'm kind of going to wait to talk about it because I want to figure it out more, how I feel about it, and I want to wait to see what happens. But we see Yuno come in, and I will say, last panel, he looked really, really cool. And one thing I did notice is, we found out the chapter before, he's a prince. And this time, I don't know if it was there before, but now, like, you notice the meaning behind it, which is his magic gives him a little crown, which is kind of cool. Like, he's a prince. So, of course, we see magic gets passed down. Noelle has water magic, and her family has water magic generally, like her mom did, right? So we see kind of similar magic gets passed down along lineages. And so, because he's from royalty, he has a crown in his magic. And I think that's kind of like a nice little touch that I really like. I think that's really it. I didn't have too much to say on Black Clover. It wasn't a terrible chapter, but I don't think it was super good. It wasn't like near my top of the week. So sorry about that. Kimetsu no yaiba. So Kimetsu this week was pretty good. One thing I think this fight's doing pretty well so far is the way that we can kind of see the helplessness of all of the members of the Demon Slayers against Muzan, right? Like, we see Tokido's like, I gotta cut off his arm and like kick his limb away, otherwise he'll regenerate. But it ultimately doesn't matter because of how strong Muzan is, right? And what I think is so like kind of like sad about this fight is that they're not fighting to beat him, right? Because they recognize like, we can't kill this guy. We have to let the sun do it. So they're just fighting to stall for time. And they're saying, we can't fail here. Like, failure isn't an option because if we fail here, we just lose, right? We've committed everything we have to this. We have to stop him now. And it's painful watching like him lose his sword. And, we have the strongest members of the Demon Slayers they're fighting and they kind of just can't really do too much, right? They can't make too much of a dent in him. And it sucks. It's sad to see. That cat is a hero. He's a big Chad cat energy. Sacrifices his life, to kind of slow down and stop the effects of the Muzan's like demon blood on everyone. And I really do think like the manga's doing a good job of showing this difference in power and like how even these like Demon Slayers, like, the best ones kind of can't even hold the candle. And like even Tokido's like, I'm being useless. I think the thing at the end of the chapter, some people might call it an ass pull, which I hate that word generally, but I do think like, it's believable. It makes sense. People do kind of get stronger and gain, extra strength when their backs are up against the wall and they are, on the verge of death. And so seeing that happen now definitely means this can't come up later in the fight. We're definitely going to see that happen with Tanjiro when he comes back, and we see him do something. He's probably going to be on the verge of death too and do some crazy bullshit. So can't wait to see that happen. That's kind of it for right now. I don't have too much else to say on Kimetsu. Promised Neverland. This chapter was okay. It was good, but it wasn't like super good. There's some stuff I liked in it though. It really did hurt watching like Sanju and Mujika, be called evil, because we know it's the Ratchet clan behind everything, and we saw how hard they're trying to fix demon society and kind of change it the same way Emma is trying to change just the world, and now the Ratchets are throwing a wrench in the plan. And I really like the theme of Promised Neverland. I really like the way the characters are all like, we can do this without having to hurt other people. It's good. I like it a lot. And this chapter kind of shows even more so how strong the Ratchet clan is. We even see we see that panel of him putting like the game piece down. I don't know what game it is. Someone knows, but not me. But we see the panel of him putting the game piece down and like everything got turned black. It shows like he's definitely has a big pull right now. And we can see how hard the demon society doesn't want to stop eating humans, right? They enjoy it, they like it, so they just want to keep doing it, and it's going to take a change for them to stop. I hope that we kind of go back to now we get to see Emma and Ray and Norman breaking all the kids out of Gracefield Home, because that's kind of the other thing going on, and I think that's something that could cause kind of this mass change in how the demon society sees these things. So I'm really curious to see what happens there, and I thought this chapter kind of helped push some of that along. I don't have too much else to say. Okay. Sensei's Heart! Weekend study was okay this week. I had some things I liked, but I don't think it was a super good chapter. And it definitely I was expecting more after the last chapter, and so I kind of didn't like the way it ended. And I think that it sets up some interesting things, but it doesn't completely deliver on the way I wanted to. So I'll start. I like the girls in the ski gear. They were really cute. Sensei is great. I think Uruka's decision, where she was kind of told him, I like you, but I'm leaving in a couple days, so nothing's really gonna come of it, is it is the smart decision, but I don't think it's the right decision. I think that's kind of the route the manga's gonna take as well, where you don't get closure by doing that, right? There's this whole thing where in the manga we see a lot of times there's a smart decision, there's what people should be doing, and then there's also kind of the other decision. There's the one that people make for themselves, what they want. And we see that a bunch, right? We see it with what the characters want to do. And we also get to see it with, Naruyuki, it happened recently, right? There was the whole, his kind of push towards wanting to be a teacher as well, and he kind of got off the track he was doing, even though it would have been smarter to stay on the track, use the recommendation, go to a better school. He's following his own path now. And I'm sure that's going to come up with what happens with Uruka now, where we see she just wants to call it off, say, even though that's not what she wants, she just needs to say, I need to tell you, and that's going to be the end of it. But that's not going to give the closure that she's going to want. I think once Naruyuki processes that, because that was kind of something, at the end of the chapter about how Naruyuki just couldn't really process what was going on. I think once he processes it, he'll say something, he'll probably formally reject her, but that will be closure. That's what she wanted, but what she didn't think was the smart decision. And I think that just kind of fits in thematically with what's been going on. I think that's probably the course it's going to take. And in that instance, I think it's good. I think it just kind of hurt it reading weekly a little bit, because we get the end of a chapter where she confesses, and then there's this 2-week break, and then we come back and they're skiing. And I had to go back and check. I was like, wait, is this right? Is something getting fucked up? And then it did the flashback, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I think there's other ways it could have kind of gone about it, but either way, I think, it's interesting to see. And there's even this idea now where see all these other girls who totally super into Naruyuki, and they all kind of know it. And I want to see how they all play out. I felt conflicted, I think, about Uruka's stuff originally, but I think the more I think about it, it makes sense. And I think it will be done well. I think it was just it hurt reading weekly at first, because you hit it and it's ooh, that kind of stings, and then you realize what it's doing, and that what it's going to do fits in thematically with everything else. And I think that's something that can happen sometimes, and people just like to give their quick, snapshot reactions to things without thinking about it. And I do think that, this could be good, but I do think that the pacing of it kind of hurts weekly. But when the series is over and you binge it, I think it won't feel as bad as it did at first here. I also really like seeing Sensei's relationship with all the students, because she has a relationship with all of them where she was kind of cold and standoffish, and they didn't get along, but you can see she really does care about them. And now that she can let that open, it happened 2 chapters ago, or last chapter I think it was, where there was the big hug and they were all crying, and now we get to see them together, and she's bringing them to her family's villa, and they're all hanging out, and she's drinking in front of them and bathing with them, and I love the relationship that they have now. It's great, and I like seeing that she's validated by it, because she felt like they didn't respect her at all as a teacher, or realized that he was trying to do what was best for him, but now they were able to pursue what they wanted, and it's cool. I think that's about all I have to say for We Can't Study. I'm gonna act like I'm a good YouTuber for once. This arc is so good. Oh my god. It's fucking heartbreaking. This arc is messing me up, because the way that you can see that this performance is putting all this stress on Yanagi, and this turmoil she's going through, it hurts, when you see it and you kind of see what's when you just any kind of page of her hurts, and when you see what's going on inside of her head, you're you feel so bad for her, right? But this chapter was so good. Okay, so the fact that the director is making Yonagi forgive her so that she can learn to forgive and become a better person, the same way that Iron Fan has to be forgiven so that she can forgive, right? The fucking 8D chess this director is on, where it's okay, I'm gonna write a character that's me, where she has all this hatred and bad shit in her, and she learns to overcome that by other people forgiving her. And I'm going to cast someone I did terrible things to, and I'm going to make them forgive me so that I can forgive other people. It's what the fuck? It's crazy. It's so good. I love it. And just kind of watching it where, there's all these glances and kind of shade being thrown from Yonagi off stage to the director who's standing there watching. It's so good. And then, Tripitaka, the fucking hero of this arc. That angry face he made was so good. Because he realizes that, even though generally when you forgive someone, right? Generally, when you forgive someone, it means that you don't harbor resent, right? You're it's cool, we can move on. But what he's showing is, so partially it's what they said, when you see someone acting the same way you are, it gives you kind of a glimpse of how you look to other people, and it shows you, I think they described it as, it shows the ugliness inside of you, which is true, but I think there's also this kind of other degree to it where it's for Yonagi's not going to just not be angry about it, right? So even if she's going to forgive, she has to forgive through her anger, kind of, right? Like, she's not just gonna not be angry about it. She has to keep that anger. So it's like an interesting thing where, like, he's mad and he forgave Yonagi. So now Yonagi, who's mad, has to forgive, you know, the director so that she can play the role of Princess Ironfan correctly. And it's so good because you see that. And then just everything after that where, like Yonagi wouldn't have done, you know, she wouldn't have found this glimmer of hope to play the role out if it wasn't for her castmates, right? If it wasn't for what Tripitaka did and the way the entire cast now is focusing on saving Yonagi, right? Like, what I love about it is they're not even saying, like, we have to save the show. It's, we have to save Yonagi, right? Because fucking friendship, power, yes! Like, it's so good. And, you know, we kind of see, like, it's the castmates that are saving her, right? And that's so cool. And that's something we've seen the whole time is Yonagi is so into this performance and her emotions are so kind of, like, crazy that just, if her castmates had just followed the script, they would have been swallowed up by her and the play wouldn't have been good. But it's that her castmates have to kind of change what they're doing to support her, right? Because you can't do it on your own. Like, she needs the support of her fellow castmates. And it's so good. It's so well done. This arc is so great. And I can't wait to see the conclusion and also the other performance we still have. And it's so good because, like, the only way you can, you know, kind of battle through these, like, strong emotions, like the manga's just telling you, is, like, you know, with other people, right? You have to kind of, like, you know, the director was off on the mountain, right? She secludes herself, and that's why she was never able to battle through these emotions, because she needed other people in her life to help her overcome them. And what's happening with Yonagi? She's having her castmates and these other people help her overcome her emotions. And it's so good, because, you know, you can't just, you know, if you're just that angry and you go stew about it, you know, you're going to stay that angry. But if you start talking to people and, you know, they're kind of making fun of you and you kind of, like, look back and you're like, okay, yeah, you know, you can get over shit like that faster. And it's super good. God, Act H is so good. Okay. I think that's all I have to say for the chapter. I mean, I could talk more about it, but it's just, you know, what it's doing is so good. I fucking love this manga. It's so fire. Pun fully intended, by the way. Okay. No way, is that an old decomposing finger? First of all, I must say, the color page of this chapter was good. I liked it. It was cool, it was edgy, it was like, oh, it was good. Okay. I just love Akutami's art. It's so good. Okay, so I really liked, first of all, just Gojo's reaction. Like, the panel where it talked about, it was like Gojo, and it shows, like, flashbacks, was really, really good. I love Gojo as a character, and I love, you know, I liked the flashback arc he had, and, like, this arc is, you know, just a continuation of that, and that's great. That page of fucking Geta, like, pulling up his thing, and you see the brain talking, is terrifying. It's spooky, you know, like, that's, like, our main antagonist right now, and he's a fucking spooky boy. And seeing that it's not really Ghetto, I don't know, is it? Like, I'm a little confused sometimes, because I'm dumb, and I, you know, my brain doesn't work right, but it seems like he has memories, but it's not Ghetto technically, it's just someone who kind of has similar, like, it's someone who's taken over his brain, so I would assume he has, like, his memories and other things, but it's technically not Ghetto since he's dead, right? Also, I think Gojo getting sealed instead of getting killed is just infinitely more interesting, right? Because, like, if he just died, that would, like, he's dead, right? He's out of the story. And he's, like, my favorite character, probably. Like, him and Itadori are, like, my favorite characters. And, you know, I'm not saying that he can't die because he's a character I really like, because I think, you know, you can do good things with a mentor character's death, right? Like, just look at Jiraiya. But I do think that, you know, it's interesting that he's sealed, because now it's like, he can come back. And does he come back immediately? Does he come back later? You know, is Itadori the one who's going to have to save him using Sukuna? Is it going to be this arc? What if it's, like, near the end of the manga? Then he has to save him, and then Gojo comes back, and he's there for the ending, you know? I think that sealing him is just, like, a more interesting kind of solution to the Gojo problem of him being super strong than just killing him outright. And I'm curious to see kind of where that goes, and because now it's going to be like, okay, he's not dead. So all these characters, you know, like, all the characters that look up to him and kind of need him aren't going to say, okay, he's dead, he's gone, but it's, how are we going to get him back? Right? And that's, like, I think it's just kind of, you know, not that it either is bad, but we're so used to seeing mentor characters die that I want to see a mentor character who just needs to be saved, you know? Because then by the time they're able to save him, it means that they've grown enough that they might not even need him as a mentor anymore. And now they're just like on the same level. So I think it's really cool that he's sealed instead of killed. As long as that's what happens at the end of the arc. Because they said, you know, it sounded like they weren't really able to kill him because they said the line like, you know, you might be sealed for 100 years, you might be sealed for 1,000 years. So I think that's kind of the route they're going, where he's not dead, but he's going to be sealed for a while, is probably the route it's going to take. And I think that that's kind of cool and kind of fun. And I like that. Power, I like you. Chainsaw was good this week. I liked it. I don't think it was like the best chapter of Chainsaw Man, but it had some interesting things in it, and it had some things I really liked. Mainly Power. Power's so good. You know, it was funny when she was like, you know, talking about how her cat is sleeping in Dingy's bed when she was gone, when she came back, and she like gives a human trait to the cat. And I don't know if that's just like a joke or if like the idea there is that like cats are closer to humans than like demons are to humans. So, or devils or whatever. So Power sees the cat as much more human-like than she sees herself. And I think that's kind of interesting, right? Also, I just love Dingy. He's such a fucking dumbass. Like, we see him, like, you know, in the top panel, he's all fucking emo, like, I'm never gonna be happy again. The girl I love is dead. You know, he's fucking listening to, like, My Chemical Romance or some shit. And then, fucking, you know, she comes in and she's like, let's go on a trip. And he's, like, jumping. He's like, yeah! Like, it's so funny. I love it. I love Dingy. He's such a fucking stupid dumbass, and he's so good. He's just so horny. It's so good. And then like, I love Power, how she's instantly just like, I'm busy. I have a meeting. What a good lady. There was also something kind of interesting this chapter that it's touched on more, but I think this episode kind of goes way more into it of like, world powers use devils and they steal them from other countries, you know, and make them do their bidding. And I think that's like really interesting, right? Like, because the first question that jumps into my head is someone controlling the gun devil, or is he working on his own? Because as soon as you go into a bunch of, you know, devils are controlled by the government, is the gun devil, right? Is he being controlled or is he working on his own? I loved the one part of the chapter also, just talk about all I should just have a power hour every time I talk about Chainsaw Man, where I just talk about Power for an entire hour and just how great she is. But I love the one panel where like they're like the trip is postponed and Dingy is like gonna kill himself and Power's like, yeah, woohoo, my hero. I feel like the most like kind of the biggest reveal of the chapter wasn't even those guys at the end. It was the fact that like all of the, because you know they say that like devils die, they go to hell, they die in hell, they come back, and the sound that all the devils heard in hell before they died was Dingy's chainsaw, right? Obviously it wasn't Dingy, but you know it was the chainsaw. It was Chainsaw Man, and that's kind of like super cool because like that means that like theoretically, right, Dingy should just be stronger than all these other devils. But then that also makes you want to know who was the person who killed Dingy in hell. Because, like, if he's going to be here, that means someone killed him. But also, he killed, like, all these other demons, so devils. So it's super cool. I'm super interested to see where it kind of goes from there. Also, the immortal boys at the end were kind of, ooh, we're immortal. I'm curious to see what happens. They've survived the gun devil, so that means that we know that, you know, they probably have, like, some memories of them or something that we might see. And we see more, you know, just talking of they're trying to take out the gun devil, like, a year from where they are in the manga. So I think it's, like, I'm really curious to see more of, I think we're getting to the point now where they kind of have to reveal a little bit more about the gun devil, and I really want to see more. Oh, I'm dying. I thought the Samurai chapter was better than most of the other ones, mainly because of one little thing that I kind of love. The power of friendship. Yes. I really like Sanda. I like he gets $1 billion just to then also cut the guy's head off, take him back. It was a nice thing where, like, you know, you see it coming. You don't think he's actually going to turn on him. But also, you know, it's satisfying to see, like, the change in him. Also, the only other thing I really have to say about this chapter, other than, you know, my screaming about friendship power, is that the court system seems kind of fucked. You know, they're like, yeah, you can talk, but it doesn't make a difference. And I'm interested and kind of worried to see what happens. Like, what if they get thrown in jail and then they have to like break out of jail or something? I think that could be interesting. And so I think that was like the most interesting part of this chapter, honestly, instead of the friendship power, was, you know, what's going on with the court system? Is their court system like super fucked? And that's interesting. I want to see more of that. That's all I really have to say about Samurai 8. I don't think there just wasn't too much for me to talk about in this chapter. I like this new boy Oga. He's funny, but also I'm happy that this chapter was kind of more about Nanao, because I love him. He's got the big bucket on his head, and he's a big boy. He's funny, and I think the idea of there being government spies and private sector spies is super cool, because we didn't see too much of it. And my first thought when I saw him was like, oh, so we're gonna get very by the book spies versus Tayo, who's very much anti kind of some spy things, but still is a spy. And I still think that might be kind of some of what happens, but obviously it wasn't the main point of this chapter, which was, the fact that even though Tayo's super strong, he still gets destroyed by this government spy, like the guy just absolutely annihilates him. And I think that's super interesting because, when you look at it, it's like Tayo's trained so much. We've seen all this like super crazy progress on him already, but like it doesn't matter. They're just so strong, and it's really interesting because like now he needs to train more, and he's just not there yet. And maybe he doesn't have it in like his blood, and he can't get there. But I'm really curious to see. We saw all this training, and he was like so much stronger, and he got just annihilated by this guy. That's good. That's great. I don't want him to be like some super strong spy already. I want to see him have to like fail and kind of work harder. And it kind of goes with what I was talking about in week 0, where I mentioned with Mission Yozakura Family, we're kind of going to get to more kind of action stuff, like we're going to get to more arcs and more kind of more serious stuff as opposed to just being a gag manga, which I feel like there was some, not just a gag manga in the first kind of 18 chapters, but I feel like this was the first chapter where like I said, it really was the first time where we see this coming into play. And, the chapter ends on like a really somber note, right? Like he gets beat up, and then now I don't know how to say it. I'm so bad with pronouncing names, so if I pronounce it wrong, just tell me. But Nanao, I always love this shit. But he's like, he wakes up and he's like, I can show you like the poison isn't in me, but if you're gonna kill me, go ahead. Please let me heal my brother. And I fucking love that. What a good boy. I always love that when that happens. For example, in One Piece, there was when Zoro and Sanji were fighting over who was gonna take all of Luffy's pain from the fight. It's so good. I love seeing stuff like that, and I think it was pretty well used. I liked it. To him at this point, Tayo is just his brother. He calls him brother like 4 times in the manga in this chapter, and it's great because like that's what, like, they're a family. Even if Tayo had to marry in, like he is a family with these other spies, and that's always something really good to see, because I think a lot of the manga does instead focus on the oldest brother and his kind of how he's like a cis con. But I do like seeing the other members of the family be like, yeah, like we're family, we're gonna protect you, we're gonna do what we can for you. I really like it. That's all I really have to say. I'm definitely curious to see what happens next chapter and kind of where things go from here. I'm keeping my eye out, but that's really all I have to say for this chapter. I'm crying, so now I'm stronger. That being said, I had way more to say about Mission Yozakura Family than Mitama this week. There just wasn't, like, I'm just not really a fan of this baseball arc. Like, I think it has some funny gags. I like the one where Soya can't see spirits, so he's like, look, all I see is the ball just flying around. Like, let me pitch. I did like some of the stuff with the wing, whoever. The problem with the manga is just, like, nothing really... Like, until the very end of this chapter, I just, like, didn't really care about the baseball game, because it's like, okay, this is... It's just... And, maybe it's just me, and I feel like it's kind of... It's not really the best criticism to say, like, well, I just don't really care too much, but... I feel like the problem is, like, so much shit just gets undercut with a joke, and it's just there for the point of making a joke, If you listen to the Weeb Club, which you totally should, by the way, and I talked about a lot with Cautious Hero this season, where a lot of times when you constantly turn everything into a joke, serious things kind of don't hit as hard, or you don't care as much, because you're just waiting for the joke, right? And I think that the first chance they had, like, or the last chance I really was going to give to the manga for a while, in terms of that, was the start of this, where like things were like looking really serious, and then it just kind of turned into a jokey baseball game. And I think the ending kind of made a little bit more like when like they were throwing baseballs that captured the spirits, right? They were throwing pokeballs at them, because now it's like, okay, well, can the spirits still play? But even then, I just don't care too much, because I don't think anything's gonna happen other than it ends on a joke and everything's fine in the end. Or it gets canceled. Yeah, I think that because I just expect everything to get undercut with a joke, I find it hard to really take anything seriously and care until the manga finally does something that it doesn't just undercut with a joke in the end, which I'm still waiting to see and I still think could happen, but it just hasn't happened yet, and because of that, it's harder for me to really care too much about the series. I like Zipman this week. I'm pretty sold on Zipman pretty quickly, which doesn't happen a lot, but I think it definitely has like stuff I can see as like potential. I really like the character designs and the art, especially this chapter. I thought there were some good drawings. There were some cute girls. China's cute. That new girl is cute. Main boy, I love Kaname. He's so funny. He's such a sweet boy, but he's also cool and edgy, and everyone's scared of him. And he's got like this dumb smile, and I love him. God, he's so funny. I also love how he's just such a fucking nerd, right? Like, he knows the idols, and he was like, you know, oh, I collected all those bread because I wanted the Jackman, the stickers, you know? Like, he's such a fucking nerd. I love him. I love the interactions between the brothers, right? And so it was funny seeing him just bring him as a backpack. I like the idea where it's like, you know, even now, like, they're together, and I'm sure they'll find a less awkward way than he carries this massive backpack. But I even loved his, like, you know, his brother, because he's so straightforward about everything. His brother was like, hey, like, people are kind of noticing us. He's like, no, look, I'll show you. Look at how big and spacious this backpack is. I love it. And it's like, dude, you're a fucking idiot. He's so funny. I love him. And, you know, now there's a new character, and I'm curious to see, you know, she's one of the first people we've seen outside of kind of the main characters to kind of acknowledge that Kaname's like a really good guy. He tries really hard, and he's got a scary face, and it's really fun to see. I really like his character, and I really like seeing some of the stuff he does. So I definitely give it like a big plus so far. I mean, the problem is it's only 5 chapters in, but I think when you compare its first 5 chapters and it's how early it is and how good it is to some other manga we're going to talk about in a second, I definitely think it's got potential, and it has a lot of things I like, and I want to see kind of where it goes, and I hope it gets to stay in the magazine, because it's something that I'm really interested in. I'm not going to say it's like, oh yeah, I love it, it's super good, but I do think that it has potential to be really good once it kind of gets going. I'm going to talk about the worst manga in Jump right now. Imagine if they drew me like a girl and then said I was cute all the time, and that was the whole joke. Isn't it so funny? So before I shit talk Agravity boys, I'm going to give a little bit of praise to the series because I want to be fair, and then I'm going to tear it to shreds. So I said in the thing, I like the character designs a lot, and that holds up. I do really like the character designs. I think that the art is really good at the, oh my god, the art's so serious and everyone looks so serious while something super stupid's happening, right? I mentioned it in my week 0, you know, the I took a dump page. There was also a couple times this chapter where that happened, you know, and there was super serious faces and super serious art when nothing serious was happening at all. And I think that joke is it's funny. It's also not the first thing to do that joke, not the best thing to do this joke, and a joke that can get tired really quickly when that's all your manga has going for it. That being said, I liked it in this chapter. This chapter was the same joke as the first fucking chapter. All it was the exact same fucking joke from the first chapter, and I don't care. The manga would have been way more interesting if you had Chris take the potion and turn into a girl. But instead, now it's, oh, you're a cute boy who's, like, you know, looks like a girl, so we're just gonna, oh, we can't look at you, haha. Schrodinger's fucking boobs or whatever. Like, if we don't look, nothing happens. And it's like, shut the fuck up. Like, it's not funny to just make half of your chapters be about how one of your boys looks like a girl and is cute. Like, that's so boring. Sure, the joke's it's only been the source of 2 chapters. There's also only been 4 chapters. So, and considering one of the chapters is the first chapter and it's way longer, at least half of the manga up to this point has been this one joke. And it's already gotten old. Because you had the chance to do something interesting with the joke at the end of the first chapter, and they didn't. And instead, now it's just, oh, it's cute, he's cute, haha, what are we gonna do? And it's like, no, like, stop. It's not funny anymore. I liked the second chapter because I thought what it was gonna be, kind of the manga, was gonna be this, we get this weird interdimensional being who kind of gives them interesting choices to offer, and they have like a unique take on it. And I thought that was gonna be kind of interesting, kind of like a shitty version of Star Trek, where every chapter or a couple chapters we get like this interesting dilemma that they have to solve, and they're dumb and stupid about it, but then also they kind of make an interesting choice at the end. That would have been a really interesting way to do the manga. Instead, the last 2 chapters have just been kind of dumb jokes turned into 20 pages and not super funny. And then this dumb joke was the same as the first dumb joke, and it's like, okay, stop, please. And I'm reading Agravity boys, but I'm not enjoying it. And I do think the manga could still be saved. I think if they kind of go that route of like that, you know, kind of funny shonen like Star Trek kind of thing, I think it could be kind of interesting. If you decide to go the route of, you know, maybe they find the gender potion and Chris drinks it, and then it becomes like this weird kind of comedy, like this weird gender bent comedy, like romance thing. Could be funny, you know, and could have interesting stuff. But I think as it is right now, it's really, really kind of nothing, and it's really kind of not good. So, you know, I think of everything right now in Jump, it's probably the one that I most expect to get canceled, and also the one that I'm most looking forward to getting canceled. I want to see what the new manga that come out are. I hope they're better than this, but that's kind of all I really have to say for Gravity Boys. I want to tear it to shreds more, but there's just not enough, right? Like, it's 4 chapters. There's not enough to just annihilate the manga. But there's also not enough that I can really praise the manga for much, outside of the art's good. That's really it for Gravity Boys. I don't really have much else to say. Alright. Thank you guys for watching up to this point. We're done talking about all the chapters now. I do have some other things I want to say. I do want to do some things. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give my top 3 chapters of the week. And then I will give my, you know, what I think my favorite arts, what my favorite panel or spread or whatever was this week. And for the first one, I'm really... So normally I would give, like, Haikyuu would be in my top 3 every week. And I would always give Haikyuu spread of the week. Or, you know, art of the week, panel of the week, whatever. I don't have to this week. It's not in my top 3, and I don't think it has spread of the week. I'm floored. I can't believe it. I'm so excited. Not because I think Haikyuu was bad, because I thought Haikyuu was really good this week. I just thought there was some way better manga this week. So I'm going to go 3, 2, 1 for them. And we can kind of, you know, I've already talked about the chapters, so I don't really need to explain too much. But my third favorite this week was probably My Hero Academia. It was really good. Really, really good chapter. I liked a lot of parts of it. I liked watching Deku's growth. Y'all understand. My second favorite this week was Act Age. It was really fucking good. I really liked Act Age this week. You know, I've talked about it. Great chapter, great manga. Please read it. And then I think my favorite was just One Piece. One Piece was super good this week. I wish I could have talked more about it. I wish I had more to say. The problem is One Piece is just so dense, and it's been so long since I kind of read through it all. I definitely need to reread it all, because there's always so much, and I always feel like I'm missing something. Like, I had to ask people in a Discord server a question about something, because I just didn't remember, and I was like, hey, like, I don't remember this. Can y'all help me? And even while I was talking about it, I had to look shit up, because I wanted to talk about things, but it gets so... There's just so much, and One Piece is so dense with information that sometimes I feel like if you don't just live One Piece, it can be really hard to talk about all the things in One Piece. So I definitely want to reread it at some point this year and kind of get everything out there and, like, kind of take notes and really, like, try to compartmentalize everything so I can kind of store it all and be able to call back on stuff. But One Piece was still really good this week. It brought up a lot of good things. It had a lot of interesting things that, like, now it's even more exciting to see the conclusion of the series. So it was that. And then my spread of the week, I talked about it and I've already shown it, but it's the MHA spread. It's the Deku spread. It's so good. It's so good. I have to give it my spread of the week. If I had to give it 2, it would be Haikyuu, but thankfully I didn't have to. So yeah, that's about it. Make sure to vote in the poll for what your favorite of the week was. I don't know if there's a way I can do it so everyone ranks it, but I think for right now the idea is everyone just puts their favorite, and then once everyone kind of gives me their favorite manga, you know, maybe say 5 people say One Piece, 3 people say MHA or something, 2 people say Act Age, then the rankings would be, you know, One Piece, MHA, Act Age, you know, like those are the rankings. So be sure to vote your favorite chapter. I'm actually really curious to see what y'all like, and I'm definitely going to bring it up next episode, so I think it's interesting. Be sure to leave a comment if I fucked something up, or if you think I maybe could have talked more about something, or there's something interesting I missed. Please let me know. I think it's super interesting talking about all these series. Thank you guys for all the support again. Like, I've gotten a bunch of subs. Y'all really seem to like the last episode. I hope I could deliver this time to kind of your expectations. I'm only going to try to keep doing these and keep getting better. Sadly, there's no Jump next week, so I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to make a video of some kind, but I'm not sure. But that's the case, so I might also just take it off because I have school kind of starting up, so I might want to just take a break for a week and kind of think and get some ideas, but that's what's going on there. So obviously I can't talk about Jump next week, but I'll be back 2 weeks to talk about it. I think that's really all I have to say. Thank you guys for watching a lot. If you enjoyed it, you know, be sure to subscribe. If you aren't, so you can keep watching these as they come out. I appreciate any likes, any comments, any kind of feedback. You guys can follow me on Twitter here. I'll put it here. You should sub to the Weeb Club. It's a podcast I do with What the What and Craft Store. We talk about anime. We just finished up the fall season. We're about to start the winter season. If you're curious the shows we're watching, we're continuing to watch the MHA anime. So if you're like, hey, this guy talks about Shonen Jump, I want to see him talk about a Jump anime, talk about MHA there. We're watching Maji Record, like the Madoka Magica spinoff, Plunderer, and then Koisaru Asteroid. And then we also do like a backlog thing where we've talked about some different stuff. So go check that out. It's really fun. I really like doing that. Again, subscribe to Drock. Thanks to him for the intro. You can follow him on Twitter too. He puts up some shit posts there. There's also Mogi. Thank you for the avatar. I love it. So there's that stuff going on. I think that's about it though. So I'll see you guys next week. Bye.